At this time, we'll call to order the regular meeting of Finance Personnel Committee. This is March 11th, 2025. Roll call, please. Sorry.
Alderperson Pere.
Here.
Mayor Boyd.
Here.
Alderperson Kundinger.
Questionable here.
Alderperson Quigley.
Here.
And Alderperson Gantz is excused.
All right, and she might be popping in. All right, thank you, Amy.
Yep.
Item 3, public comment on matters not on the agenda. Comments made during the public comment period shall pertain only to matters under the jurisdiction of Finance Personnel Committee. Anyone in person or virtually have any public comments upon matters not on the agenda? If so, just state your name. Everyone here is for a specific reason. Alderperson Hanson just popped in. That's just wonderful. Anyone virtually have any public comment upon matters not on the agenda? For the third and final time, any public comment upon matters not on the agenda? If so, please just state your name.
Did you miss the
Skip
minutes?
number 2.
Yeah, you missed a minute.
Let's go to item 2. Approval of the minutes of the February 11th, 2025 regular meeting of the Finance Personnel Committee. I'll make a motion to approve. I was going to do that anyway.
Second.
Motion by me, seconded by Alderperson P-Rock. Discussion or comments? I like this order a lot better. It just flows better. That said, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. I'm not going to do 3 again. I'm going to go right to 4. Item 4, consideration and possible action to approve unassigned reserves to fund the ash tree replacement program due to the new tree grant being put on hold. Marty, I'm going to bring you up right away. Okay? So rather than us make a motion and second on this, I think we should hear Marty out first before we move forward. And I know some of you have info in your packet, so you can click on that as well too. Marty?
So we had a NEW tree grant that was funded through or partially through U.S. Forest Service, and the NEW representative found out that the U.S. Forest Service employee is no longer there. There was no contact, and they were informed that funding was permanently on hold. So that kind of put our grant in a bad spot. So at the time, they indicated they would not fund any trees that were planted, and no trees would be funded in the forthcoming. We received a call late yesterday that indicated if we submitted our information right away, which we did, there was a very good chance we could receive funding for the trees that were planted in 2024. So we were informed that our information was accepted and that we should receive funding for those trees by the end of next week. I won't celebrate and clap until we see the check based on kind of how things are going, but it does appear that that funding for the trees that were planted will be reimbursed to the city. However, the secondary question is they did confirm, NEW did confirm, that future funding is permanently on hold. The dilemma that we face is that we have probably in the neighborhood of about 100 tree orders right now. So we have to make a decision if, A, we are going to notify the homeowners and say we're very sorry, we're not able to honor those tree orders, or the city would need to choose to move forward and pay for them themselves. So that's where we're at.
Thank you. Cost for the first one, $5,000-ish.
Ish.
That will be picked up for 24, hopefully.
Correct.
We're not celebrating yet. 10,000-ish for the trees on order.
Correct.
And then we can cancel the order as far as we can tell.
Correct.
For the ones.
We talked to the nursery and we have confirmed that we are able to cancel the order.
All right.
Not that we can wait another 2 months, but at this point in time, we could cancel the order if that's the route you choose.
All right. To start a discussion and dialogue, I think we should need a motion. So I'm going to make a motion, just at least to get this thing going here, to not fund and put money toward the trees, the 100 trees for the orders coming out of unassigned reserves.
Second.
Motion by me, seconded by Alderperson P-Rock. At least we get the discussion going, which again, as we discuss right here, is basically we're saying we're not going to get that money, and we'll have to tell the people that those 100 trees, it's on them. Again, the reason I'm making the motion is it gets to be a slippery slope. This is just the start of what we think we might see happening moving forward. So to go to unassigned reserves just for this, what we would consider small, well, 10,000 is quite large. We don't know what's going to happen going forward. And I think it's a stance we have to make
Is
moving
this
forward.
two-pronged? Because it's the ones that have already been planted. Like, that is a different
We're,
scenario.
we're not even talking, our motion is just for the future order, the one that's 2025, 2024, the $5,000 that are already in the
To me,
ground.
It reads like it's two.
I can do it separate, so this, I thought I did, that my motion is only for the future trees.
Yep.
That we don't go ahead with that.
Okay.
If we want to do the net budget cycle, that's fine, but as of now, we should just not fund it. Do you
So I
want to
guess
sign
then my
reserves?
clarification is there two things, like, is there also a need for the 5685? To cover,
Larry, good question. Larry, how,
What I would recommend on that part is just wait. Don't do anything with that. It appears I signed the documents today that you submitted back to them to get the reimbursement, correct? That was for the trees?
No, that was for the landfill.
Oh, never
permit.
mind, missed point. All right.
keep up,
So-
city manager.
But anyways, I would wait and see if you get the money. If you don't get the money, because they're telling us we will get the money, if you don't get the money, you can always come back later and take it from unassigned reserves at that time.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't worry about that one, just let that play out. And
Okay.
then deal with however you want to for the tree orders that are pending.
and that all sounds fine to me. I would want to cover, if that doesn't come through, that,
Right, that would be a whole
Different
different
scenario.
discussion of stuff that's already in the ground. Yes, yep.
all right.
Other questions or comments? Alderperson Quigley.
Yeah, just to clarify that, so the funding that went away from the U.S. Forest Service, this is the shenanigans in Washington right now where they're canceling programs?
I hate to speculate. All we're informed is that there's problems at the United States Forest, or at the U.S. Forest Service.
Okay.
So we did not get any translation what that exactly means.
And no one there to answer your question?
There is no one there to answer the questions.
Okay, thank you.
So you can draw conclusions.
Yes.
And again, if we do this, does this go to council? The full council?
Yes.
Yes. If we do this, the other part of it is we'd send letters to those 100 or so.
Yeah, we would wait for a council decision, and if the decision is to not honor the free trees, we would send letters out to the homeowners explaining the situation and inform them that if they wanted to continue with the tree order, they could pay for the tree, and we give them the cost. Otherwise, we would cancel their order.
Very good, thank you. Other questions or comments? Did you want to make a comment, Alderperson Hanson? Okay, all right. Wow. All right, that said, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries, thank you. Marty, thank you. Where am I? Number 5, I don't want to screw this up now. Item 5, consideration and possible action to allow tactical emergency medical services, TEMS, medics to utilize firearms when deployed on the SWAT team. Al, you want to just take this before we move forward?
Yep, so I wanted to introduce Jesse Ballou and Dell. They are both of our TEMS medics. We brought this before the council in 2022 to partner with the Sheriff's Department and provide tactical medical providers embedded into the SWAT team. We appreciate your support. You approved it then in 22. Since then, they've been performing with the team. What's changed in 2023 is this whole process, and the general term we use is called integrated threat. So now it's not just active shooter, because as you see when you watch the news, there's all types of different threats. Oftentimes fire is used as a weapon, explosives, the latest one is cars. So this is ever evolving and ever changing. The best practice, and we've been really on the cutting edge in De Pere in the region, but best practice in 2022 is to embed those medical providers right in the team. And the reason for that is if one of the SWAT officers would get shot, anybody that's in the room that would get damaged, the medical providers are there. In our world, time is our biggest enemy. So the faster we can provide care, the better the outcome typically will be. So that's the whole thinking behind it. And since that evolved, that we've put medical providers now embedded in these teams, they're at a severe disadvantage that if something were to happen and the law enforcement that's there protecting them would become incapacitated, they have no way to try to protect themselves to get out. So 2023, state of Wisconsin changed the law to allow TEMS providers, when they're functioning in a SWAT team, to carry firearms as well. Their job is not law enforcement. They're not out there trying to neutralize bad guy. We're just putting them in the best position for them to be successful and not get hurt. So what I'm asking for tonight is to request your permission to change our policy. The whole process is essentially outlined in the memo in terms of how the system works. The firearms are the property of the police department. They're issued to a TEMS medic when they're on board in the team. When they're on board in the team, they're deputized by the sheriffs. They fall under all the sheriff's protocols, all the sheriff's training. And what happens then is when they decide they no longer want to be on the team, that firearm gets requisitioned back to the city. It's owned by the city to Pere. It's part of the armory of the police department. So it's managed all through them. So that's kind of the quick overview.
Thank you.
And I wanted you to put a face with a name. And
Great.
if you had specific questions for these guys.
To Alderperson Cunningham.
So is this only in certain kinds of calls?
So it would be any time the SWAT team is activated. So when the SWAT team in our county, which is a joint team, which is really cool. So when that joint team gets called up for any event, these guys get called up as well. And they are only carrying those weapons once they're activated, because then they're under the authority and jurisdiction of the sheriff once that activation occurs. So we're not asking them to be carrying weapons the day-to-day on ambulances, anything to do with that. All of our city policy remains the same. It would just be when they're activated on an event for the SWAT team.
And the training and hours is the same?
It's all the same. So currently, when they go qualify for shooting, one of these guys stands by as a medical provider in the event something would happen. Now they will qualify and train right with the officers.
And this is something that you would like?
It's something
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. Gives us a line of defense if something were to go bad.
So in Dell's previous life, he was a law enforcement officer before he decided to come and work in fire and EMS, and Jesse's a Marine.
So the most recent one that was considered this type of situation, was that the Walmart thing last year? Or do we have something more recent than that? That would have got you guys pretty close to the lines, correct? To the-
Yeah, we've
to the
had other
incident.
deployments since then.
You have.
That we've been on, high-risk warrants, those types of things,
Sure.
barricaded subjects. So, again, we just don't have that line of defense if something bad were to happen
Sure.
in those events.
Thank you. To keep this going, I'd make a motion to allow tactical emergency medical services medics to utilize firearms when deployed on the SWAT team. That's my motion.
I'll second.
Motion by me, seconded by Alderperson Quigley. Additional discussion or comments or questions anyone has?
Right.
Thanks for what you do, both of you, by the way.
Appreciate it.
That said, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, and this does go to council as well.
Yeah. Thanks for the support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in.
See you here for the next item. Thanks, guys.
Item 6, consideration and possible action on request to accept proposal and increase bonding for fire department storage shed. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by me, seconded by Alderperson P-Rock. Discussion, comments, stuff you'd like to add, Chief or Pam? Or at least clarify what we're doing here.
Yeah, so I tried to, again, outline it in the memo, but the best job is really done by Eric. Our engineering department took this project on, so this was requested in the 2024 budget. And the request was for just a cold storage building, not something that we're going to be working out of or anything like that. It's just we've in the last 60 years, our equipment's gotten bigger and we've gotten some more. And so we're trying to keep it all under roof where it's safe and have a better longevity. So all that being said, we put this out for proposals and I have to be partly to blame or all to blame for some of these things. One of the things that I did not anticipate is when our new zoning code was approved, when we did the initial cost estimate, I didn't understand that it's built on the same property as our fire station zone government. So it has the most restrictive or the most robust zoning of the zoning code, which means that any building built onto that site must meet the same standard, i.e. masonry on the outside, certain types of materials. So subsequently, our building cost it exceeded what the expectation was. So We budgeted for 150,000 in the 2024 budget. That's about the time I realized that engineering had to do a design and build. So you see where the estimates came out. They're all pretty close. So all the estimates for the building are pretty close. We're asking for the lowest bid, RJM Construction. And in there, you'll see that our engineering department contracted with Robert E. Lee for all the design work for a cost of $87,08. So that means that the entire project, we're $68,000 short of getting it completed.
Larry, you want to add something?
I don't know, do you want me to comment on it?
Yeah, I do. It looked like you wanted to comment on it. I literally thought I saw your hand go up just slightly, so you just have ways of doing that.
No. And Pam, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the
He did.
funding for this would be bonded later this year. So the only reason why it's really coming back to you isn't because we need to acquire money from unassigned reserves or anything like that. We need authorization to bond more money than was anticipated and approved in the original budget. And so that's really what we're asking for, the approval to go above, and they'll just bond additional funds then later this year if it gets approved.
And we do that like in July or something, right? When we go to bonding? July-ish?
This summer, yep.
This summer, okay. Thank you. Thank you. I'd make a motion to approve increased bonding for fire department storage shed based on the request, the amount of money, $68,000. So my motion is to accept proposal and increase bonding for fire department storage shed.
Yep.
Yeah, what you said. Okay, thanks.
Second.
Motion by me, seconded by Alderperson P-Rock. Additional discussion or comments? Alderperson Cuniger.
My only question, clarification, revolves on a recent discussion, if I'm not mistaken, about new facilities altogether being somewhat in the near future for fire. And if this is at all redundant or short-term because of that.
And I would say this is fire department, Station 2, so it wouldn't be.
Okay,
Larry?
so it's a different, okay.
Yep.
That's all I needed.
No, good question. Other questions or comments? Seeing there are none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Before I keep going here, Pamela didn't come in at all, did she? Or has anyone seen her here? Okay, all right. I think she would have said something, but all right. Item,
Oh, no.
you don't see her up there, right?
No.
Okay. Press Gazette. Item 7, consideration and possible action on revised sale option terms with James C Cornell for a new facility along Millennium Court from Parcel ED-2313-1 to Parcel ED-2311. Dan, you want to give us an update?
Yep. So the item in front of you tonight is a request to, I guess you say, relocate an option. Jim Cornell Plumbing is looking at doing an expansion or a relocation to their existing business as they have outgrown their current location on Enterprise. Last year, we issued a 3-year option to them as they work through their plannings, figuring out what they want to do with their existing site. And working through that one, they are moving forward, but during that time, we've also had an opportunity to converse with another existing De Pere business that would like that site for a much larger expansion that you'll see on the next agenda item. So in conversations with both parties, we had, our contracted engineer, REL, prepare a concept plan that took their preliminary concept plan and put it on a new site. And we met on site with Jim Cornell to see if they would be appreciative of that relocation, providing them greater visibility along the Southern Bridge corridor. And through a couple conversations, they have agreed to, I guess you'd say, relinquish the current option and replace it with an option on a new parcel. So what you have in front of you here on the screen, the red area is the area in which was roughly the option parcel previous. And then what you see as Site 1 would be the relocated option. So you can see that there. And I've outlined and identified what their proposed concept building would look like adjacent to that cul-de-sac and all the existing other, I guess you'd say, smaller commercial businesses out there. So with that one, staff is just more or less requesting that relocation, with the one caveat being that the option price be the same. This parcel is about 0.15 acres percent larger, I guess you would say, or however you want to phrase that. We don't want to increase that option price or that option at purchase price for them because they are moving on our request. So as an option, we'd like to keep it with the existing purchase price that was for the original 1 acre parcel that you see there. So with all that, all the existing conditions remain the same. I've outlined any questions or any things that you may have questions on, but if you don't have any questions, staff would recommend approval of that request. And then the last thing that we've added to this one is, in addition to our obligations, would also be to prepare a CSM and do any wetland fill delineations and permits as part of this one. So that's the reason for the request.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments for Dan? I'd make a motion to approve the revised sale option terms with James C Cornell for the new facility.
You got a second?
Motion by me, seconded by Alderperson Quigley. Is that good for the?
Amy did.
fine.
Oh, Alderperson Cunningham.
I think you missed it.
apologize.
I
I'm
think you
sorry.
missed it.
I was looking over there too. Oh, just one of those nights. Questions or comments? Was that okay with the motion? That's what we're looking for, correct? The revised sale terms? Okay.
Option terms.
Yes, sale option terms. Yep, I think that's what I said, correct. You saw it, didn't you? You're looking at it right there. All right, that said, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 8, consideration and possible action on revised proposed sale and development agreement terms with BCD Holdings LLC for a proposed development of parcels ED-2313-1, ED-2314, ED-2315, and a portion of ED-2311 to develop a 172,000 square foot multi-phased warehouse and manufacturing facility. Dan?
All right. You saw a similar request to this one back in December. So this is, as they've gone through their due diligence, a small wetland issue sort of arose that would have stopped the project, I guess you'd say, from about 9 months of delay between going through a wetland delineation and proper fill permits and stuff like that. So through that process, this is where the negotiations have come in. Instead of creating a long linear building along the Rockland Road corridor or the future Southern Bridge corridor, creating more of a box situation. Actually, it does work better for their overall use. So what you're seeing on the screen tonight, again, is the larger site that we're talking about, proposed boundaries. And again, I do have kind of what would be a notch out for a future roundabout for along the Southern Bridge corridor. We don't have that line yet. We'll be working with Brown County to establish that line. But in general, the Site 3 is what you're looking at. Obviously, we talked about Site 1. We have Site 3 now, so that leaves Site 2 in the middle. We are trying to coordinate with somebody who's interested in that site. So hopefully you see something from that in the near future as well. So Site 3. And I have on the screen the proposed, I guess you'd say, concept. It is in multiple phases. In this case, phase 1 being primarily a warehouse, which will allow Bedford Paper to, one, relocate their existing warehouse off of their current site on Commerce Drive, and then expand that site to 60,000 square feet of a new converting line and relocate everything here. Phase 2 is a planned future converting line over the next few years. They are currently debating whether or not they want to bring that online as part of this project. So we have built in a couple trigger points to kind of kick off that. More incentive if they were to build it sooner, less incentive if they were to build it later than a 2028 sort of target. This project is large. There's a reason why there's extra protections that were listed in the conditions. Staff has requested that they do comply with the buffering requirements adjacent to a residential neighborhood, even though technically they're not. We've also asked that they limit the light exposure on that southern facade, so that again we protect the neighborhood, we protect those components, and add the berming requirements as well. So again, we're trying to increase the aesthetics along the Southern Bridge corridor, understanding that it's very important to the Southern Bridge corridor. It's also important to let our existing De Pere businesses continue to grow. So as a result, we're trying to find the best means and approach. This concept site plan will have to go to Plan Commission because there will be a design exception. When you have this large of a building with 3 frontages, it's hard not to have loading docks face a street. So there will be a design exception request that will be made. They will be adding increased buffering and increased landscaping to screen that as much as possible. Or if they set it back more than 200 feet from the street, they wouldn't have to meet that one. But there will be a design exception request that will have to go to Plan Commission as part of this as well. So with that, you saw in the packet the proposed conditions that are for a phase 1. Again, the title says, actually I apologize, this is the old title, so my apologies on that one. It said 170,000 square feet, 172,000 square feet. That's for both phase 1 and phase 2. Primarily, this is for initially for a 120,000 square foot warehouse. By our, I guess you'd say, value per acre, we're far exceeding what we strive to achieve, value per acre wise. We're over $1 million per acre in this case. We're utilizing the best land the land as best as we can. And if they were to do that converting line, it would just increase that threshold to probably one of our most high value per acre parcels that we have in the east side. So with that, we're looking at a proposed value of about $7 million. And the overall incentive package that we're looking at here is about $520,000. That's an increase from the $420,000 previously because, one, the building's bigger and they're doing bigger sooner. So previously it was 100,000 square feet, but it was going to be a balance between 80,000 to 100,000. In this case, they're willing to go to that threshold, 120,000 square feet. So we have a site assembly grant of $210,000 approximately, and then a pay-go incentive percentage amount of $310,000. So there won't be any bonding as part of this one because the land is already acquired. It was already acquired in TID 10, and then also it's a pay-go percentage amount. So the risk has been minimized on the city's behalf. The other obligations that are in there are included, but phase 2, we did include trigger points, i.e., again, incentivizing them to build that other facility sooner, i.e., for every year that they increase that they bring it online sooner would be a increase in the incentive amount. But in general, if they were to build it in 2028 like it's scenario planned, cumulative incentive is about $735,000 for a almost 10,000 square foot building, $10 million building. So overall, it's a little bit lower incentive percent target than we've done in the past, but TID 10 is running out of life, and usually when you run out of life, the percentage amount has to decrease because you have less opportunity to recapture. So with that, all of the similar terms are in there, just been updated with the proposed values. I did want to highlight one component is technically this parcel is, again, another small shade bigger. So instead of $210,000, it's actually $215,100 on a site assembly grant. So it doesn't impact us at all, but just for updated the numbers in the document. So.
Very good, thank you. Questions, comments, motion, anyone?
I can move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alderperson Condiger, second by Alderperson P-Rock to approve the revised proposed sale with BCD Holdings. Do we have any land left in the east business, industrial?
Small. Although there will be a request from the fire department to take some of it for a future firehouse that we just talked about a little bit. So.
Oh, so smaller.
But we're planning for it already. So we have some smaller parcels. Yes, but we do have obviously the 20-acre option parcel from the YMCA. That's obviously out there, but I do get calls on it all the time, but the YMCA has an option on it. And then we have several on Destiny and Profit.
Oh, Destiny, okay, yeah. Okay.
Southern Bridge will open up a bunch of land.
Do you know what's going to go in the warehouse?
Yeah.
What's going to go in it? What are they storing?
In what? Sorry, I can't.
You talking about the Y?
No, in this facility.
Oh, this facility
Oh.
is Bedford product, Bedford paper. You know,
Paper.
yeah, it's their paper products. Yep.
Other questions or comments? And we do have a motion and a second. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 9, discussion and possible action on the current balance of excess stadium tax funds. Pam, you want to start that off?
Sure. This
Please.
is why Elder Hansen would be here. This was
I understand that now, yes.
his request at the last council meeting was an update on these funds. So looking at what's in your packet, you can see that there are still 2 projects that are outstanding that have not yet been completed. And those are both through definitely to Pere. So those are currently being spent down. They had some expenses last year and they plan on finishing those earlier spring. They need nicer weather to be able to finish those projects. So that's where the $634.53 is for the Public Art Initiative, and $15,340.94 is left for the Streetscape project. So in addition to those funds, there were a couple projects that came in just under budget, and we've continued to get additional funding every year from the state. So what happens is when people go back and they're paying their sales tax from 2015 and prior, because they were delinquent this long, we're getting a portion of that tax that was collected as well as the penalty and I believe interest that was on it. So on the bottom of that spreadsheet, I show the amounts from 2018 to 2024. So in 24 here even, we got $3,415.88 additional So that leaves a total of unobligated funds of $44,540.07. My only recommendation on that would be to pick something that you could use it on that's, you're going to designate future funds, because again, in '25, I might get more this year. I might get some in '26. I don't know how long we could continue to see a little bit trickle in here and there. So for instance, Green Bay, we had used it it's going to go towards road projects. And then every year, if something comes in, we just offset a little bit of what we're going to bond for a road project and use those funds. Now, this is only a couple $1,000s, but I'd prefer not to have to come back every year to go over what additional amount we got, whether it's $200 or $3,000.
Very good. Thank you. Anything else? No? So we have the recommendation. Alderperson Hansen's coming up. Questions or comments anyone has regarding the excess tax fund? So your recommendation is to use this for future road projects?
Just an option, just to obligate them for future years as well, not just this balance here.
Larry?
Can you remind me, were there restrictions on how the money has to be used?
I believe when at first, I don't have that in here, but I think it was on tourism and
Economic development.
Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't think roads was eligible expense, but
I can't recall off the top of my head.
We used it for the engineering fees. I mean, you need roads to have tourists. I don't know.
All right.
Alderperson Hansen?
yeah, I appreciate Pam putting this together. The only reason I brought it forward is just because that money has been sitting there since I've been on council in 2017. So I thought it is time to finally kind of make a decision of what to use it on. Roads would be fine if we can use it for that. I know we've also used it for park projects and kind of justified that as tourism as well. So one of the biggest expenses that we used the funds for was the Voyager Park playground. So my recommendation was just going to be to have the department heads, like we did with ARPA, bring forward some project ideas and then have the council decide where they want to allocate the $44,000 to. But I understand Pamela's point about wanting to kind of come up with a permanent solution where it goes somewhere every year so that we don't have to keep coming back every year to decide what to do with $3,400. So,
Well, I think we could use that idea more broadly and ask for concepts of renewable
yeah.
areas.
Yep.
We could. It's a lot of work for $44,000,
Yeah.
but I mean, we could. Anything's possible. I think we all thought it might have been more, and there's still some unobligated things out there to kind of deal with. It's good that we have an eye on this and we know what the number is, so that's good. Larry, you're going to say something. You did that again. You had that little, I was going to say something. Doesn't anyone
Well,
see that?
if you want, we can have the department heads each come up with an idea, do rock, paper, scissors, and then whoever wins, that's the idea that comes forward.
That's what you were going to say? Out of a hat.
Is there something more on a shelf that we've conceptually thought of for like professional development or economic development, like seeing best practices at other places that we've never allocated funds to, but would be a really good investment ongoing that would fit in this kind of price range?
Larry?
Again, I don't have something like that off the top of my head with it. What I would recommend is we probably should go back and review the restrictions on the funding to begin with, because I'm not quite sure where that is. You found it?
I pulled it up. It's 2015 Act 114, and it says that we have to control the funds separately, which we are. We're tracking those separately, and that the municipality is to use it only for the purpose of providing property tax relief. So yes, if you're not bonding, you're providing property tax relief, tax levy supported debt relief, or economic development. And then it says that a municipality may not make expenditures from the segregated account unless the municipality's governing body adopts a resolution specifying the purpose for which the revenues will be spent and the amount of the revenues to be spent for that purpose. So,
Yeah. I think in the past we amended the resolution, if I remember correctly, every time we changed this. That's what I'm recalling anyway. So
It's wide open.
it's pretty open for whatever you want. So if you want the department heads to put together some ideas, disgruntled, but to put together some ideas, that's fine, or however you want to proceed, really. It's not hard for them to throw together some ideas. I mean, my guess is if you ask within a couple of days of Kim working here, you'll have a
So-
number of,
So sometime in the future, past March 20th, we would probably pursue this.
well, you're not going to talk about it again until April
Right.
or May anyway, is when you'd be doing it. So that'd be my suggestion if you want to do that.
Alderperson Quigley.
For the funds that have been spent already, a lot of them have gone to either playground equipment or public spaces. Would it be possible to just use this for the Parks Department, and then if there's future money that's coming in, it would kind of be ongoing maintenance for those spaces, those areas that we have?
Yeah, again, you could dedicate it, for example, if you wanted to say we want to dedicate the funding for enhancements to the Riverwalk, Voyager Park facilities. That would fit the category, that's where we would, spend money. You were going to do a splash pad, for example, and things, and you didn't. So you'd probably have to identify a little bit more detail on
Okay.
it. But again, if you don't want to get specific and you want to say you want to use it for something like in parks, you could probably identify an area, and then whenever you have, for example, they're going to put steps on the Nelson Pavilion, that should have been included to begin with. So that'll be whatever amount of money to put those on.
Or
That would be
pay down
something
debt
you
from
could-
the.
Or pay off
pavilion,
debt for the
Right.
Nelson Pavilion.
Which is a possibility,
Yeah.
which we have. So I guess there are options there that we could proceed with.
But-
So,
But I think if you want to make it general, where you're not coming back all the time, maybe identify a specific area if you're interested in parks or if you're interested in something else, and say this is where it would go for enhancements to or paying debt for that type of thing, and then you're done with it.
or have it allocated for the future states of De Pere, and it can offset those costs. How about that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Vote for that.
economic development. So how do we proceed then? First, well, you just found the information about what it's used for, which is pretty much anything. I mean, it really is very broad. We are the committee, so we have to come up with something, even though he could recommend something for us to say.
I do like the idea of a recommendation. I know that you are definitely biased the other way, based
You
on
looking at me or Larry?
both of you.
Oh.
But I don't.
Then
I
look
don't
at her
think
too.
I don't think the exercise is in vain. If we decide that it's something else, it's good to, because that also then can feed into the budget process for other things. Like it's not a lost cause. I think there's other things too that we can conceptually, like if it's the building facade program or making something up that we already have more robust to encourage more engagement. It could be looked at that way as well. But I don't have anything against asking for ideas because
Larry?
it could lead to other things.
See, I actually think the budget thing is a good idea, for an easy way to handle it. You could probably just direct the city manager for the next budget to utilize the funds and one of your recommendations in the budget. And then every year, if there's more funds that come in, again, use them in that year as part of the budget process and just do it that way. And then you'll still, as a council, have final say on whether it gets used or not used for that purpose, but you don't go through anything else to come to suggested, ways to do it.
You want to make a motion for that, Alderperson Cunninger?
Yes. I don't know. I'm going to paraphrase that.
That the city manager, would be recommending the city manager would incorporate the funds into a budget request on an annual basis as funds are available.
Says Amy.
I will second that,
Okay.
Sure.
because she's looking right at me, and if I don't second it, I'm out of here. No, I like that. That's a very good suggestion, so I'm going to second that. So we have a motion and second on the floor. Any additional discussion or comments on how to move this around and get this going?
It's a good start.
All right, very good. That said, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And this does go to council. So Alderperson Hanson, you'll get more say there as well, too. All right, thank you. Item 10. Consideration and possible action on 2024 budget items carried forward to 2025. Pam?
As is done every year, we have a list of items that, for one reason or another, didn't get completed in the budget year that they were there for. So this is a list of all the items from 2024 that were within the budget that department heads are requesting be carried over to 2025's budget to hopefully be completed now in 2025.
Sounds good. I'd make a motion to approve the carryover of 2024 budget items to 2025.
Second.
Motion by me, seconded by Alderperson Cuniger. Discussion or comments? All right, seeing there are none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 11, consideration and possible action to reclassify the part-time accountant position to assistant finance director position using unassigned reserves. Pam?
So I'm going to apologize up front because I don't like using unassigned reserves, but here I am requesting unassigned reserves. What happened recently is we had our accountant resign. She put in her 2-week notice, and she has been done now for a month or so. So we have a part-time position opening. As I look at the grand scheme of our department, I feel that there's a need for a full-time position. So I'd hate to fill a part-time position right now and then come back for as part of the 26 budget and say, hey, I want a full-time position. Sorry, part-time person. See ya. I'm going to hire this full-time person now. So now I believe is the time to kind of request that I'd like to make this transition from that part-time position to this full-time position. So assistant finance director, I'm looking for basically help to back me up. So they would fill in my absence, but they could help oversee more of the cash flow. They'd be more of an accountant. So I'd take some of the job duties from the deputy clerk treasurer and transition it to just be more of a deputy clerk position. And this would be more of your deputy treasurer or assistant finance director position. So doing your daily bank recon, helping reconcile tax collection and other bank accounts, doing just reconciliation of other balance sheet accounts, overseeing the AP process, helping reconcile the AR, doing journal entries, just having that accounting background to be able to do that stuff. According to Shannon, and I know she was also going to join virtually online today, this is something that has been requested in the past from the previous finance director. They kind of transitioned and got this part-time position trying to fill that gap, and I'm just not seeing the needs of the department quite being met with that part-time position. So that is why I'm requesting this full-time position.
Now, it should be noted as well, too, the funding mechanism, so 50% general fund. Do you want to just kind of go through that?
Sure.
we
So
understand what
I
the
was
hit
using the
is?
same funding mechanism that we have currently for the accountant position, which is 50% general fund, 25% sewer, 25% water, and and that's your 100. There you go. So the full, it's not 100% hit to unassigned reserves, then it'll just be,
That's why we need an accountant.
yeah, I know, I need help just adding to 100.
Yeah.
So the actual amount this year, if we filled the position in June from general fund, would be roughly $34,107.50 is what I'd be looking at. And that's, again, assuming it's at the step that I budgeted at and would be a full-time benefits. And so it could come in less, but that would kind of be the max I would be looking to request for this year. And then it would be added to as a permanent position in 26's budget.
Larry?
Just out of curiosity, should half of this position, though, be charged to the TIDs?
I just got to ask.
Did you see him perk up right there? Did you see Dan? He's listening. Yes.
There is an administrative allocation that is done at year end that is not done just through wages. So I would say that would be covered through this.
Okay.
Questions, comments?
No. I'll move to approve.
Okay. I'll second. Motion by Alderperson P-Rock, seconded by me. Discussion, comments.
I do have a question,
Alderperson
yes.
Quigley.
So the example for the salary that used the 98,592, is that including the part-time position that already exists? Or
That is not. That's the actual full-time cost of that position.
So it's not 98 that's coming out of unassigned reserves, it would be the difference between those two numbers?
Well, for this year, we are-
Prorated to June?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I will note that, HR did send this position out for the pay grade to kind of determine where that would be.
Yeah, understood.
I
Yep.
didn't just pick a salary.
No, I understand that part of it. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Other questions or comments?
I think it's a really wise move.
Yes.
To have a full-time position. It is really hard to find part-time positions for the caliber of the role needed, so I think this is wise.
Do you want to go on the record stating that she can never, ever again talk about unassigned reserves in a negative light? Do we want to have that as part of the motion?
Yeah.
No? Yes?
No. No.
No.
Only if the rest of us are going to observe it too.
All right, that said, again, this goes to council. Any additional questions or comments regarding the request for this position? All right, that said, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Pam, thank you. Item 12, still here. Cash and investments report for January 31st, 2025. Anyone need any information? I think the month will be okay. It's this month right now we're living in right now, not so
January
much.
was good. I'm a little hesitant to say March will be good, yes.
Thank you. Questions or comments on the cash report? I'll make a motion to accept and place on file.
I'll second.
Motion by me, seconded by Alderperson Quigley. Any additional questions, comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 13, future agenda items. Anyone have anything?
Is it?
Before adjournment, this is your last one. You want to say anything?
I swear. Hi.
Oh, Alderperson Quigley. Did you have
I'm just.
one?
I do. Yes, I even raised my hand.
Oh, I'm
Is there any update that we can incorporate into either here or directly into council for the Front Street or Shopco?
I could definitely bring that part of council report if you so choose. At least one of them will have an update, the other one probably will not.
won't.
Oh. Well, I'll take one out of two.
All right. Very good. Thank you. Other future agenda items, and I apologize. All right. Again, this is your last finance. So do you want to say anything that's like really catchy or anything? Or should we give him a hand? Yay. This long farewell tour that never seems to end. So, yeah.
Finn.
He was pretty witty today.
He has nothing. He's saving his speech for next week, I'm assuming. So, speech is, correct? Well, this is actually a good sign, is it not?
Yes.
All right. That said, I will then make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by me, second by Alderperson P-Rock. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We're officially adjourned.